When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield. If he's led to a fight and a duel is due, then the red and the white and the blue will come through when Captain America throws his mighty shield.
Welcome, everybody. It's Geeked Out right here on DefTal Radio. I'm your man, JQ. Yeah. With my co-host, Chandler.
Yo.
And Free.
How's it going, everyone?
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great, amazing guest for you guys today. We have the legendary artist, Allen Bellman, and his wife, Roz.
Yay!
Sorry, we don't have any...
God bless you.
I feel like I'm in church. All right, thank you.
So for the next hour, we're going to be chit-chatting with you guys.
1 hour.
Yeah, an hour if you want. I mean, we could do less than that. We could do more
I'm
than
93. I don't have the time.
See, he's like me. He's like me. It's like, give him a microphone, and
So that'll work.
he'll take however long it takes.
Okay.
So it's. I'll tell you, it is such a pleasure because considering the history and everything that we have with this gentleman, one of the remaining with us of Golden Age artists.
Well, what do you mean remaining?
In other words, you are still with us, sir. We have a lot of Golden Age artists who are no longer with us. They're in the studio in the sky.
I know.
I don't like the word remains.
See, okay.
I didn't say remains. I said remaining.
Well,
you're still here with us.
Well, how
Thank
about this?
God.
We'll just say this. You're one of the only Golden Age artists that are still doing conventions.
Yes,
and still
absolutely.
meeting new fans and doing everything that you can for your fans. So thank you.
Well, let me say something. You know, I go to conventions and have a kid or a woman walk back. They take about half hour of my time. And they said, you know, and I don't charge that much for my prints. And they say, I have to think about it. And I say, madam, at 93, I don't have the time for you to think about it.
You got about 30 seconds.
Keep it moving.
Well, again, this is considering that you have gone back out on the con circuit. You have been, and that's where I was blessed to have met both of you. And I'll tell you, but Alan, I got to be honest with you.
It's about time.
It wasn't. it wasn't you that caught my eye. It was that lovely young thing you have sitting right next to you.
What a thing?
That's no thing. That's my wife.
I have to say it is such a pleasure to be at a show and you see Rosalind sitting there and you see the way she's dressed up. I mean, we have kind of a mash today. I think we have Wonder Woman shirt, and I'm not. Is that a Wonder Woman jacket or? Oh, it is a one. Okay, I wasn't sure. It was a Wonder Woman jacket or a
You have to
Captain.
coordinate.
I never mix and match. It's either one or the other.
Okay.
Either I
Smart
miss-
lady.
Either
Okay,
I go
well, there you
Mrs.
go.
Captain America or I go as Wonder Woman.
There you go.
Yeah, it's a wonder she puts up with me.
She's the true brave one.
Hey, we can't ignore my book, you know.
Well,
Yes.
that's what I was gonna get to. One of the reasons we're here is to talk about your new book, Timely Confidential, which basically goes into your life in this business. And to quote you, sir, I believe your quote is, "I was there. I was there. I was
That
there
is my
with Captain
trademark.
America."
That is my slogan. Did I drink today? No, it's I was there, and many of the fans, when I do artwork for them, they want me to put I was there. And then I said, how about if I was W-U-Z there? But I was still there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, not too many people can say that.
Before Stan Lee became editor.
Exactly. I mean, there's not a lot of people that can say that I was there before Stan Lee. You know, because Stan Lee, of course, is the iconic name in the industry right now. But the fact that you were there before all of these other people, I mean, that's just amazing.
Well, to be technical, Stan started with Timely. I want to say on issue 3. That was around the time that he came into Timely.
Gotcha.
He was office boy when he started.
Yeah,
was office boy.
He was.
Yeah.
He was. He
Wow.
basically was there to take care of some of the errands and everything. And I believe his first book, all it was just a quick blurb that was in the book. And he was there working. He was actually there working for his uncle. His uncle was the man who owned the publishing company.
Oh, I
No,
see.
no.
No?
Let me straighten you guys out.
Okay, let's hear it. This is straight from the mouth, by the way. Let's do
Yes. Robbie Solomon was the brother-in-law to Martin Goodman. Robbie Solomon's nephew was Stan Lee.
Okay.
Robbie Solomon used to go around telling the guys how to draw. Even though Martin Goodman was outselling every other company, this guy almost put me out of the comic book business because I used to take his criticism personally. I was only 18 at the time. What you speak, Michelangelo? I mean, whatever. So it happened that several years later, I was at a convention in Montclair, New Jersey, run by Michael Uslan, the executive producer of the Batman movies. And I saw Joe Simon there for the first time, because how I got the job with Joe Simon and Jack Kirby were leaving for D.C. In fact, going back, Stanley used to go over to the Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. Hey, what are you guys up to? You planning to leave? And he was really what's that word? Anyway, he was trying to squeeze something out because he suspected something was going wrong. They were planning to leave for DC Comics. So I don't know, they say Stanley had reported them to Martin Goodman. Whether this is true or not, I don't know. But getting back to Joe Simon, I met him in Montclair, New Jersey, where Michael Uslan, the Batman producer, was running a show at the Montclair Museum. And I says, Joe, thank you. He says, for what? I says, well, when you and Kirby left, you had left an opening for me for a job. He started to laugh. I says, did you know Robbie Solomon? He says, that son of a bitch.
So you did know him.
In other words, Robbie Solomon was a ladies' hat salesman who was given a job by Martin Goodman. Wow. And he walked around. See, they never knew who he was. They thought he was a spy for Goodman. And people just didn't like him. I didn't like him because he was on my back as he was. He did the same thing. Joe Simon said he did the same thing to him. The great Joe Simon, how dare you, Yeah. But what he did to me hurted me because instead of encouraging, oh, he'd come and draw more blacks like Lou Fine or McAvoy. These were artists that were well known for other publishing companies. So he was not a real help to the artist. Oh. So we put a damper on me. But when Joe Simon said to me that Robbie Solomon did the same thing to him, I felt a little better about myself. I look back at my work, and you will see that in this book, that I wasn't bad at all.
No, yours fantastic.
Who is this hat salesman dictating to me?
Right? It's funny because you're telling the story, and a lot of the editors and all that, they used to kind of berate the artists because they didn't have respect for the artists. And the artists back then are what literally made it so that the whole industry evolved. And so guys like you, like Joe and all that, they're the ones that had to go through so much in the early days to just so that we can have an industry now.
Well,
so.
they really, the industry, people look down at the industry of comic books. I would say low life. I mean, I was a young kid, 19 now to 18.
Yeah.
We wanted to make a living. I got married at the age of 20. I should have been out playing ball with the rest of the kids. But I did a foolish thing because this is our second marriage. So, what can I say?
Yeah, well, I mean, like life is how it is. You know, you have to do the things that you have to do to pay the rent, keep the heat on. You know, first marriage might not have worked out, but now you got Roz here, and she's spectacular.
Well,
How long have you been married, by the way?
56 years.
56 years. Congratulations.
holy mackerel, Andy.
It's like he didn't even know.
56. Wait a minute. Wait, hold on. This is the second time marriage for both of us. We were married to different people.
Oh,
So, 56 years. So I say to everyone, let us not hate, let us love each other for the sake of our children, our grandchildren, for a better life and a better future.
absolutely.
Amen.
100%.
Exactly. Amen. Definitely.
So, go ahead.
Tell us about like your early years with Stan.
Beg your pardon?
Tell us about your early years with Stan.
And like Timely Comics
it's
and
Stan?
Family
Yeah.
Comics.
Okay. Here's my first introduction to Stan. I see this young kid walking with Uncle Robbie. Uncle Robbie was breaking Stan in to be editor. And I asked somebody, who's that young kid walking with Robbie Solomon? Oh, that's Stan. That's Robbie Solomon's nephew. And he explained to me. And I'll have to say this. Robbie Solomon died at a very young age. And Stanley never walked behind anyone else in his whole life. Sometimes in life, Stan and I had our little differences, but you've got to get credit where credit is due, because Stan is the only one who stood out in the industry as being as famous as any movie star. So where credit is due, his Stanley Presents, that made a big impression on people.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And he gave credit to everybody.
I got a question. Did you know him when he was Stanley Lieber? Or did you know him already when he changed his name to Stanley?
I knew him when he was Stanley Lieber because Lieber never really left him.
Yeah.
So he was Stanley Lieber all the time. But the fact remains that he was theatrical. Originally, my name was going to be Allen Bell. But that kind of withered away because Allen Bellman has a ring to it.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
In fact, Michael Uslan wanted to create a character called the Bellman, and a little bird called Dingaling. But that was all in fun. It's in a book, though.
It's in the book? Okay.
It's in a book. Yeah, you'll find a picture I sent to Michael Uslan, the movie producer, of the Bellman character with a
that's
little
awesome.
bird jumping around him.
Ding-a-ling.
With Dingaling just flying around. With the book, how long has the book been out so far? Is it just premiering this year, or?
Yeah, this year it's just out, and sales have been beautiful.
Good.
You can buy it directly from Amazon, and unfair to the publishers too. What is the name of their company, Roz? Do you know?
Pope Ventures.
Pulp Venture. You look them up. You could buy them direct from Pulp Venture. They're on my Facebook. If you order it straight from them, you will get the book autographed at no extra charge. I mean, I don't
Awesome.
charge for any.
Wow. Awesome. Very cool.
And it could also be purchased at Desert Wind Comics. Am I
Lusco
correct?
Comics, yes.
Yeah.
Desert Wind.
Yeah.
Lusco
What do you
Comics.
want to give them the
We'll have
address?
copies of it available today. As you'll be signing in the store, we'll have copies available today for fans to come by and pick up. And we always have a copy available in the store for fans.
Well, I don't know if you can keep because I sold well over 20 in
I'll
just
have
a
to bring
couple
more in.
hours.
I'll bring more in as we sell them.
Okay, great. And I will sign every book that you sell, sir, will be signed by me.
Okay?
Very cool.
Absolutely.
So I got a question. I I know that you're going to be signing. Roz, will you be signing the books too at the signing today?
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to Roz. your beautiful wife over there.
Well, there's a whole chapter on me, and I'd be glad to sign that.
That'd be great.
Whoever wants it.
Well, let me tell you something right now. You're making trouble, buddy. I'm behind my booth, and they come over and take pictures of her, and they walk away. Hey, come on, guys. What am I, chopped liver? Come on back. I'm Allen Bellman. No, not really.
I'm prettier than you are.
This is a great team, though. I mean, she brings them in, takes a picture, and you can sell your book to them.
Well, without her, I couldn't do it.
Yes.
Because sometimes behind every man, there's a woman. My first marriage, what can I say? There was a woman, but I was almost buried. No, she is buried. She's gone now. I mean, I really shouldn't say, but she has left us, and I felt a little sorry that, she's the mother of my 2 children, or was the mother of my 2 children. So you get to feel a little bad. It's hard to forget the...
Well, I mean, it's, again, life just, the longer you live, the more loss you find,
Well, let me put it this way. You speak about life. Everyone has their little package, and I've had mine. You can read about it in that book, because there was a time I didn't have a place to sleep. I did not have a home. I did not have a family. And it's all in that book.
Wow, that's gonna
I'm
be
not
amazing.
ashamed of
Sleeps in
that.
his book.
Yeah, no, seriously, that's going to be an amazing read. I'm going to pick it up later on today after signing. I just want to, having the interview like this to see you face to face, you and Roz, I mean, that's amazing. But I really want to get into that book because there's so much information there on how life,
But not only dialogue, you have pictures, my reproduction. I pitched the first ball at Marlins Park about 4 or 5 months ago.
Wow.
It's pictures in there, pictures galore. I pitched like a real champion. The ball left my hand. It went straight. I kind of twisted on my cane on a mound. This is true.
Oh, wow.
I turned around and involuntarily, because the shiny part of the cane, and the ball didn't go to the left. It didn't go to the right. It went straight to the catcher, but it fell about 5 feet in front of him. It would have been a strike, but they wouldn't hire me. No.
Well, 2/3 of the book itself is in color.
Oh, wow.
And that's what designates the price of the book, because 2/3 of it is total color.
Nice.
1/3 of it is reproduction of Allen's original work going back to the 40s and 50s too.
When I worked for Lev Gleason, I did work for Lev Gleason too. Of course, it's mainly Marvel and Timely, but I did a lot of work for Bob Wood. And I'd like to say a story about Bob Wood. Bob Wood was a very nice chap to work for, him and Charlie Biro. But Charlie Biro was someone that you didn't see. I used to call him the Flash. He'd walk in fast and disappear. Never said hello to anybody. But one day I'm walking the street and I see a headline. Cartoonist kills woman in hotel tryst. Bob Wood was the nicest guy in the world, but on weekends he'd get drunk. And he'd come in with shiners, a bruised face. But I got along so great with him. He was so mild-mannered. And here's a guy that killed a woman because, in all probability, he was drunk when he did it. Yeah. But he got out. That's not the end of the story. Sir, are you drinking again? You're hiding his face.
Trying to see him.
Anyway, he was released and he became a short order cook in a diner in the New Jersey area. And he was finally killed by the gangsters. Probably owed him money, and so what a sad ending. For
a talented guy that, honestly, I hate to say it, but alcohol got in the way.
Alcohol killed him.
Yeah.
And women.
And probably other things like mobsters.
Well,
So-
you know, when you kind of mess. I lived in a neighborhood in New Jersey. I had mafia all around me. I didn't see nothing. I didn't look nothing. I seen nothing.
Right.
Nothing. But I felt protected. We had a guy called Pussy Russo. They killed him.
Wow, what a name.
Yeah, it always
How you
attracted me.
doing?
And this you got to listen to. My wife, the kids that came to my house were children of the mafia. They were 12, 13, 11. And Roz would drive them home. And the FBI was behind them taking license numbers.
Wow.
So you're on the list. Wow.
We were clean, but, you know, that's the environment. But I felt safe.
Well, because nobody's going to mess with you in that neighborhood.
Well,
you know?
while you're doing this is the kind of neighborhood I lived in. I was over here, and they lived here and there and there. If they had to get out, they went around this way.
They went the
or,
long
or
way.
they went around the other way.
Yeah.
But as I said, we had one guy, a Jewish gentleman, and he was really poor, wasn't doing well. He got a job with some electrical company that was mafia run. In a year, he had his own plane. We called him Sky Chief.
By the end of it, he had his own plane.
Yeah.
Man, that's a movie right there.
yeah. But I've got so many stories, and they're in here. I have enough for another book. And God willing, I'd like to write another book.
That'd be
Volume
amazing.
2.
Because there's so much to tell. I've seen so much. Martin Goodman produced a play on Broadway, Love on Leave. It's about a sailor and a girl sitting all night in a hotel room. Nothing happened. And nothing happened with the play because it flopped. Don't tell me a girl and a sailor is going to sit all night in a hotel room and nothing happened. So what can I say? There's so much things that I remember. I forget and it comes back to me. Why did I put it in the book? Because it wasn't in my, you know, a mind is like a computer. Mm-hmm. I can't think of a name, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, it'll come to me.
I mean, sometimes that's just how it is. You know?
Happens to the best of us.
I would like to say something that's so very important to the industry. In its heyday, in the 40s and the early part of the 50s, mid-50s, along comes the Dr. Wortham, who decided that the juvenile delinquency in the United States is due to the comic books.
It's something that shook everybody. Stan Lee was packing up to become a salesman. He would have been a good salesman.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's what he does.
but it was a devastating time for all. Because it was something that hit us with a wall. So.
No, yeah, like you said, when that happened, I remember. I mean, I wasn't around yet, but
You mean you weren't even a glint in your
not
grandfather's
even
eyes?
close. I was born in '75, so so when you say the 40s, I have no idea. But I you know, hearing stories from Chandler and everything about all the stories that you and other guys like you know, some of the legends that we have to interview and that we work with, they were telling me like, yeah, back then, when they were attacking comics as being like the bad thing that makes everybody go nuts and, you know, all the delinquency, all of a sudden now the same characters back then that, you know, were considered bad, now they're in movies. Now they're selling, you know, 8.7 million, like X-Men. You know, all that kind of stuff.
We set the way for them.
Yes.
They didn't appreciate it. I had a hard time with Marvel to get their recognition. The kids from New York didn't care. They didn't know. They didn't realize. And I say kids, they're young men. I'll tell you the story first. I was in San Diego. On stage was Chris Evans, Mike Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo, Nancy Elson, Samuel Jackson. I had a shield that my Roz's manicures put on my fingernail. And I'm on stage, and I get on a stage, and they're cheering me. And I said to myself, they know me. Stanley ain't around. They're cheering me.
Yeah.
And if I say thousands of people by the stage, and I just raised my hand to show them the shield, and they were cheering. They're filming this, and the kid from New York, he's giving them the finger. I didn't give him a finger. I gave him 5, and I wanted them to see
The shield.
the shield, and I was in awe. I was walking on cloud 9. You know, it's just with all the stars.
Yeah.
So I get to Samuel Jackson. He takes out his phone. Let's see, I want to take a picture of that nail, your fingernail. He said, I use this phone here. Don't ask me, I don't know. So he took a picture. I held the finger up.
So they put the
And he
nail
took the picture
they
of
put
the,
on the middle
nail.
finger.
Yeah, it was on his finger.
Oh my goodness.
Shame on me.
They couldn't have put it on the first finger or the pinky finger or even the thumb. They went right for the middle.
You know something? This is better than the comic book men. And I want to tell you a story about comic book men. I was on a stage with Kevin Smith and Ming. And Ming and I had something really going.
Yeah.
Because you can't say he's Asian or Oriental or what's the proper word.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be careful. And I couldn't say I did this comic Jap Buster Johnson. You can't use the word Jap anymore. So when it came to saying Jap Buster Johnson, I would go to Ming. You say it, Ming.
Right. It's like, I can't say it. You can. Go ahead.
Let me tell you something. I haven't seen much of the comic book men. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get on them, but Kevin Smith, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I was a little too funny for him on a stage with Ming.
He doesn't want to be outshined, right?
Well, I tell you, the Wall Street Journal gave me a story about my humor. Tell me when you want me to cut.
No, go ahead. I'm looking at the
we're
camera.
gonna keep on
Tell them,
going.
focus in because this is a funny
I've been
story.
interviewed here in Asbury Park, and they asked me if I still own the first copy of Superman. I said, would I be sitting here if I did? And I brought down the audience, and they printed that in the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal. That's so funny.
That's better than the New York Times.
Oh, yeah.
They had true news, not fake news. So,
yeah.
you know, I say to Kevin Johnson, if you ever want me, I'm yours. But I could liven up your show a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, the thing is, we were talking about how old you are and everything in Golden Age before the show started. And it's just amazing how quick-witted you still are, you know, even after doing so many conventions, so many books, so many, you know, like sitting at the drawing table for hours. You're still so quick-witted. It's amazing. I love it.
Can I interrupt for 1 minute?
What else?
Yes, please.
What else is new?
I have 3 things to say. The first thing is that Allen, to this day, has the capability, 45 plus minutes, without a piece of paper in his hand, to keep an audience enthralled. 45 minutes at every convention. I'm sitting at the table. Half the time I'm not even in the room with him because they can't find somebody to replace me.
Yeah.
At the
That's only
table.
maybe 10%. 99% of the conventions, they make sure somebody replaces me so I could be there with him. But off the cuff, not a piece of paper in his hand, 45 minutes minimum. Minimum. Because they have, at most of the conventions, there's a time that they honor the guests, certain guests. That's the first thing I could say. But most of all, watching him draw every day every night, no matter what time. If something comes to him in the middle of the night, he'll get up and put it on paper.
Love it.
His work is better than ever.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, next time, I'll make sure that
But, you
you
know-
reward me.
Well, I'll tell you, the greatest moment I had was in Denver a couple of years ago. I walked into a room filled with an audience, and I got a standing ovation before I even opened my mouth. And like my mother, may rest in peace, would say, Allen, if you live long enough, you will see everything. I just got 2 medals, award from Jeffert Corey, a gentleman who is interested in bringing people out into the open personalities of entertainment and different aspects of entertainment. So life has been, even though there were bumps, and as everybody has, I believe, I am not a holy roller, but I've had miracles happen. And I say to everyone, you keep the faith. When things look darker, keep the faith. Hey, praying won't hurt you at all.
Right. Well, it's not going to cost you anything.
And believe me, I prayed a lot in my lifetime.
Well, I look at it like you've been in it since the beginning, basically. I mean, from Timely Comics till now, you've seen how having really no recognition as an artist to now, you're sitting next to like Chris Evans and all those guys at San Diego, and there's 5,000 people in the audience that know your name. You know, I think that's a testament. Yeah, it's a testament to what you've been through. Because you've been through the valleys, now you get to be on top of the mountains. So that's actually really great that the newer audience still respects what you did.
I'm 6 feet above the grass and 6 feet below the grass. Look, I face reality. Mm-hmm. I know what life is. I'm trying to be honest. I still feel I have more to give back. I want to give back.
That's amazing.
And I do give back, whether it's my own children or strangers. So I don't know what it is. I go around. I talk to people I don't even know. My granddaughter once said to me, Grandpa, you're going to get killed? I said, why, Rachel? Well, you talk to strangers. She's right, you never know.
Nowadays, yeah.
Look at this poor woman in California that was shot on a pier, and the vagrant was released or found not guilty.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Well, we all know about that. It's what can I say? I'm not going to get into more politics, but comics to me is my bloodline. The fans out there, I love them and they love me because I show them respect. Can I have a little water, dear?
I think kind of what you were talking about, Free, is you look at the comic book industry.
L'chaim.
You look at the comic book industry back in the 40s and the 50s, and we've talked about this many times. It was just a job. It was just a job. As a lot of people who, especially the artists, at that time, what they were trying to do was they were trying to at least put food in their mouth while they're working their way up to become a commercial artist, because that's where the money was at.
Well,
And look at how that's changed today.
I'm going to say something, Chandler. Madison Avenue was anti-Semitic. It was hard for a Jewish person to get a job on Madison Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the clothing industry, which was profoundly Jewish. Mm-hmm. So many of these guys said, hey, we had famous funnies with the first comic book. For some reason, they got into the comic book business. And there were a lot of Jewish and Christians. funny thing, not too many black people. I did not see discrimination. We had one gentleman, Ray Holloway, another gentleman whose name escapes me right now. But there was no, hey, we can't hire this guy because he's black. I mean, there was none of that was prevalent. And they were a crazy bunch where I worked. We had the animators, we had the illustrators in one room, the animators in another room, and I'd look out of the window, I sat in the window, and these guys put again a little animated cardboard figure and somehow working it from another window. I look out, and I used to see people. I didn't see the people jump off. We worked in the Empire State Building, and during the war period, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I look out, I saw lay on a limousine, a shoe fly by. So I've seen it, you know, and it was kind of pathetic. But I work with the best, and I like to just relate a story of Violet Barkley. She was an inker. I first met Violet when we went to school, the High School of Industrial Art, now known as
School of Art and Design.
where Tony Bennett went, and there's another story, but she stood on a step waiting for the bell to ring. She was like a goddess with jet black hair flying in the wind. She was so beautiful. She stood alone, nobody approached her. When I got the job with Marvel, Timely Marvel, she was an inker. She was the girlfriend of one Mike Sikowski. Now, Mike Sikowski was a superb artist with a bad attitude. It wasn't nice. And next to Violet Barkley sat George Klein, a debonair, nice-looking, well-dressed gentleman. There was rumor going on that there was a romance, and Mike Sikowski went to Stan and says, I want you to fire Violet Barkley or I quit. And the story goes, Stan said goodbye, but Mike Sikowski went back to his seat.
Right, he's like, I'm going to quit. Okay, never mind. I got rent to pay.
So you tell me, you know, just when, when you're tired of hearing what I have to say.
Oh no, this is going to
Well,
go
just
on
like
for
Captain
a while.
America, we could do this all day.
Well, funny thing, when I was in Asbury Park, and they interviewed me, and they kept saying, tell us more stories, tell us more stories. And it did my heart good, because if I can remember, it's in here. It's in here somewhere. And what can I say? But I've met movie stars coming up. Oh, one more thing.
Yeah.
You didn't even ask for permission to leave.
He didn't ask for permission. He's got to fix the camera. So, okay, I'm sorry.
We
Go
had
ahead.
Bessie Little Herman. She was editor of the movie magazines, Martin Goodman's movie magazine. She comes over to me, Alan, how would you like to come with me to interview a new starlet? I said, Bessie, I can't leave here. I'm just a worker, I'm not an executive. I can put my jacket on and walk. Beautiful, thin young girl. Well, that young girl originally was named Shirley Shrift. Her name on the screen was Shelley Winters. She lived in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. And I saw her when she was a young 18-year-old, beautiful in a bathing suit, thin as one can be. I was there. And we all know Shelley Winters, how big and she became.
She grew.
So, this things happened. Like meeting this gentleman. And I have to pay homage to Mr. Chandler Rice, because I say this from my heart, Chandler. You entered into our lives and brought a lot of joy. And I speak from my heart. And, it's knowing nice people, because there's so many bad out there. But you have inviting me to your cons, and We had a great time at the restaurant, didn't we?
We did.
How was your sandwich?
My sandwich was good, but it wasn't quite.
Like
Cats is better.
cats.
Cats is better.
It, you know.
And
I
just
don't
so
wanna
you
know-
know, he's never experienced Cats. He
See-
came with us last year for the first time to New York
New York?
Comic Con.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Let me explain a
so we're gonna
kosher
take 'em to
a
Katz's
kosher
here.
a delicatessen store. That pastrami and that corned beef is in a steamer, and when you get it, that sandwich is hot on rye bread with mustard or French dressing or Russian dressing. Her sandwich came out lukewarm.
Not even.
I ordered turkey, so I was well off. But they're living, I don't want to mention the name of this well-known in New York at one time. I ate there in Beverly Hills one time. I couldn't eat the sandwich. It was so salty. Now I stay away from salt if I can.
You have to.
But again, getting back to Mr. Rice, I say this from my heart. Coming to your conventions and working with you has always been a pleasure. And again, I'll repeat. I ask not too much out of life, but goodness from people. We cannot be everyone's friend, but we could try, because the bad ones I stay away from. I don't need the stress.
Well, I know that Chandler works with his lovely wife, Sharon. And I'm sure if the four of us were going to get together, we'll say one thing about the conventions. It's work. It's not play. I mean, we have good times, we have fun, we love the fans, but it is work.
Absolutely.
Right, Chandler?
Absolutely. I actually had that conversation this weekend with someone. I was in Seattle for the Emerald City Comic Con, and I remember it was interesting because there were two different people that were in the elevator with me at one point. One was a fan, and they were sitting there. They're going, "Oh, I can't wait for the show to start." And I said, "Oh, is this your first show?" "Oh yeah, this is the one show I come to a year." I said, "Are you able to make any other shows?" They go, "No, this is the only one I can go to. I mean, I can't. I never want this to end." And I sit there and I think to myself, "Good Lord, I can't wait till Sunday gets here, because I'll tell you, I am worn out.
Worn out.
I am worn out by the time Sunday rolls around, and you know, and like yesterday, our routine was Sharon and I woke up at 3:30 in the morning
I believe that.
to catch our 6 o'clock flight to be back here in Las Vegas, and you know, just it starts all over again. You know, the next weekend for some people. In our case, we actually have 2 weeks off, but we end up, you know, there are times where we'll do 2 or 3 shows back to back to back.
We do too.
We know the feeling
We do
well.
too.
Yeah, it's
We know the feeling.
shows are not, conventions are not for the weak at heart.
Both Alan and I are night owls. I mean, I'll read till 2 in the morning. Alan will watch Hannity or whatever he's
Or
watching.
we argue a little bit.
Or
It's 2
whatever.
o'clock before we call it a
we
night.
get up late and we go to bed late. By 8:30, Chandler, 8:30 on a convention night, we're showered and ready for bed. Not to sleep necessarily, but when everybody, the younger people, are out there partying till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, by 8:30, and normally we're in bed no earlier than midnight.
Yeah.
We've had it.
Yeah,
We've had it.
Not to sleep, but just to decompress.
Yeah.
Just to kind of relax.
You can't burn the candle at 2 ends.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. You need your rest because it's work.
Or you can't dance at 2 weddings
two
at the
weddings.
same time.
I remember when I first met these two gentlemen here. You know, they're both local artists here in Las Vegas, and we started developing our relationships. And you know, Free at one point, he's like I'd love the chance to see what San Diego's about. And you know, they're both phenomenal artists. Quincy here, he sits there. He's working on his new character. He's working on his new character. You have Free, who has done all kinds of stuff and is a phenomenal artist. And Free, he's gone with us to San Diego, and part of what he wanted to do is he wanted to experience what it was like with us. And I said to him, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He's like, "Oh, absolutely." And so he went with us the first year, and it's experience, because we don't stay in for San Diego, we don't stay in the hotels. We actually rent a house in San Diego because we bring a crew of 12 to 15 people to work for us the whole bit. And Free ended up staying in the second house that we rented, and he was there with a couple of his guys. Quincy was with them.
Me included.
Jeremy over there was with them. And we had Joe Rubenstein in the house, and we had other people in the house. And so here it is. We called it the Artist House. And at one point, I sat there and I said, I said, "Guys, it's we're getting ready to leave for the show." And they're like, "Oh, well, and I could see them rubbing the sleep out of their eyes, and they're kind of like, "We're just now getting up." And it's like,
you don't know,
well,
the sand.
what time did you get to bed?
Dust in your eyes.
Yeah. Well, what time did you guys get to bed? Oh, well, I don't know. I think we probably slept. We went to sleep about maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock or so. And I go, "Okay, so you went to sleep at 2 and you're just now getting up." "Well, we've been up for the last hour and a half. We're ready to get going here." And they're like, "Okay, well, we'll catch up." And after we got done with the show, after we got done with San Diego, they sat there and they're like, "How do you guys do this? How do you do this?" And it's now obviously it's different for an artist than what it is for people like Sharon and I, because you're sitting there, and I know you're coming back to your room, and you're sitting there working on commissions. You're working on drawings that have to be ready the next day. And, it's so I can only imagine what it's like trying to be creative at 11, 12 o'clock at night.
Not easy.
And you're trying to push through because you're going, this customer is going to be showing up first thing. As soon as I get to the booth, I know he's going to be standing there waiting for his sketch. And, there's a lot of pressure to that.
Well, you're not telling me anything I don't know, Charlie.
Yeah. Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying is that, I can't necessarily speak from an artist's viewpoint like you guys can. I can speak from a businessman's viewpoint, but you're right, Roslyn. It is conventions are hard.
It's a marathon.
Work.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yeah.
And it's the thing that's fun is watching the fans experience it. But for me, one of the things I enjoy the most is knowing that I'm going to be able to come to a show and I'm going to be able to renew my friendships that I've built over the years. When we're going to be a show with you guys, I know I'm going to be able to see you guys again. And that brings a tremendous amount of joy to my heart, whether it's you or whether it's Adam Hughes and Allison that I saw this last weekend in Emerald City or whoever it may be. And in my case, the new friendships that I start developing, just like, I recently actually, even though I've seen him at shows before, but developed a friendship with Randy Eberlin and went out to dinner with him and his wife and going over, being able to talk about things. And it's a very tight-knit community.
Oh, yes.
Very tight-knit community.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah. Just like you sitting here is all part of what that community is about, is we're sharing ideas and thoughts and stuff, but at the same time, you know what, you're speaking to your fans. And this is what's fun about doing this, is me being able to see it from the viewpoint of the fans' interactions with you guys, and at the same time, the fans communicating with us saying, "Oh, I can't get to that show, but please, can you please get Mr. Bellman to sign this for me, please?" Absolutely. And knowing that when that arrives, when the book or whatever that we get signed arrives at that fan's house, and the smile that it puts on their face,
We'll have to go
Right,
back.
well-
all worthwhile.
I have to go back to your convention last year, at which point the whole family, all the grandchildren, when they found out that we're going to Las Vegas, Grandma, get me a room. Well, Chandler and Alan and I were on the phone at least 3 different times. 3 rooms, then we had 4 rooms.
They came from San
then we had 5
Diego.
rooms. The
They came from
grandchildren
Ohio.
were crawling out of their beds, knowing that they were going to be in Las Vegas. So we went from 1 room to 2 rooms. Well, we had 5 rooms eventually.
I just want to relate
But we
something.
put them all to work.
There you go. If you're gonna come here, you're working just like the rest of us.
We put them all to work. You want to have dinner? You want to have a drink? Fine. Work for the day.
There you go.
No, I love them. They love me. And what can I say? You know, I brought them here, actually. And you give back because you get back in joy. I give to fans. Someone may be a little out of cash, I can come down. I mean, you know, it's a matter of joy of making somebody. I get letters, and you could see it on my Facebook. Thank you, Mr. Bellman. You made me happy. And that's all. That's worth more than any money in the world.
I agree.
And-
You know,
and-
when you know you bring in this day of age where so much is going on, so much negativity, so much despair is brought up among people, and when you know that you're able to give someone just that glimmer of enjoyment, that glimmer to make them smile, and that you've made their day, you know, having that satisfaction that you were able to do that is something that no one can take away from you.
Well, I feel great that I can make people chuckle and laugh. Did I tell you an incident of a theatrical agent came over to me? Did I say that?
Yes.
He wanted. I did say that.
Yeah.
Well,
He wanted to
Again.
That's okay. Say it again.
yeah. Well, I'm 93. You know, I've reserved the right to forget.
But I have to add.
No, you don't have to add. Because
Yes, I do. You know, we had a terrible thing happen only 6 miles from our home last week, where 17 children were killed.
in Parkland School, just
and we're 6 miles from the area of Marjorie Stoneham High School. Alan ran to pen and paper. I mean, it was such a heart-wrenching thing to see 17 children go to school and not come home. I mean, it was a teary situation. He drew a Captain America. We had a vigil in our condo that night, and it was standing room only, which was the first time in the 26 years that we've lived there. And Alan drew a magnificent picture of Captain America crying, the tears.
and holding a candle and
holding
a
a
tear
candle.
just for one eye,
In memory of the-
partial face.
in memory of the children. It's a beautiful piece. It's a beautiful piece.
But I you
And
know,
we're going to call it 17.
imagine you send a child to school and he's not coming home,
terrible.
or she is not coming home. Could you imagine, as parents, and not even parents, the heartache of a parent losing a child?
Absolutely.
Well, 17 died, but 16 others were wounded.
Yeah.
So that we're not even talking about those that are through surgery multiple times.
Well, you know, I think we definitely understand that because, you know, we had the incident here in Las Vegas.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
Oh,
Well, how can we forget that?
And, you know, I remember that Sharon and I were in the office that night working. We actually went home a little early, and we had just settled in the bed. And it's funny because Sharon's not one she doesn't read Facebook or anything. She's not in the Facebook at all. But she saw something come across my phone. And what it was a comment by a very good friend of ours who her and her husband happened to be down there when the shooting took place. her husband is the CEO of one of the major hospitals here in Las Vegas. And she was saying how they actually left 5 minutes early. Thank God. They left 5 minutes early, and they were in the process of getting to their car when they heard the gunshots. And so she's sitting there and she's posting this, and it popped up on my phone, and Sharon immediately says, Chandler, put the news on. And I put the news on, and then suddenly it started hitting the news and everything. Next thing I know, my phone starts going off in the sense I'm getting text messages from people, and I mean people from all over the place, friends from all over the United States and stuff saying, Chandler, please tell me you're not at this event. Please let us know you're okay. And it was first time I'd experienced something like that where
How close it was.
people thought we were there, and of course they're like, let us know you're okay. So immediately we put out the word that, hey, Sharon and I are safe, we're okay. Obviously at that point I started texting, and I reached out to Free, and and part of it also is that Quincy here, he works as an MC, a professional MC, and so a lot of times they're at these events that are going on all over Vegas. And, of course, I'm sitting there and I was scared to death for these guys because that's what they do for a living when they're not drawing, is they're doing events and stuff. That's what DefTal is all about, is live events. So, like what you're saying, and I think probably the deepest heartache and pain a parent can ever feel, and thank God I've never felt this. I have no children, at least not of the two-legged persuasion.
Okay.
But for a
Dogs.
parent to lose his child is, I think
For no reason, no illness, nothing. They go happily to school and not come home.
Yeah.
My solution, I was asked this question last night on an interview. If I was president, how would I face this, or how would I try to fix this? Well, the first thing, these war guns should not be sold. I mean, you have the right to own a gun, but not a weapon, a war weapon. And this 18-year-old snot-nosed going in and buying a gun that they don't care, the gun owner, that's a sale. But what's this guy want a gun like that for? This thing has to be reported.
Yeah.
If there's any suspicion, we could avoid it of 9/11. If these people who were training these guys only to fly and not come back, damn well what they have in mind.
Right.
And how about these kids who know they don't want to snitch? They don't want to snitch. And they're heroes because they don't want to snitch. You'll have to live with this young man with the rest of your life.
I agree that, you have the right to own a gun. But if you need 30 bullets to put down a deer, then you're not a hunter.
Right.
You're using that gun for a different reason. So.
Well, Trump is going a little bit against the NRA. Yeah. He's rubbing, a little bit because I'm a fan. I believe that as far as guns, I don't want to even look at them. I fear them. But one has to need one for protection or business or as such. But not walk in. And this kid had a history. We had a history. They told the police. Mm-hmm. They told the FBI.
And nothing was done.
When I was a kid, the FBI were heroes. We were junior G-men.
Yeah.
And now, but a strange thing happened when I was in San Diego. I saw a man of Asian origin take pictures of the little box at the airport where you put your luggage in and see if he could take it on a plane.
Yeah.
I said to myself, why is he taking a picture of that? Now, 2 years later, this is true. I see another gentleman sitting in there. This one took pictures in the front and the back of this box. When he walked away, he didn't sit down, he walked out. I take a walk over and I walk behind the box. It's like a measurement in a box, like a rule, a big rule. I get home. You know, you feel a little foolish, but I call the FBI in Miami. I could see them writing it down and throwing it into the... But this bothered me because it was also another man of Asian origin. I mean, 2 years apart, I'm seeing this. I'm still here.
Yeah, it's just a
I
little
know what
odd.
happens. But this one, the second one, went behind it to take the picture. And I called the FBI in Washington. Little did I know. So maybe perhaps what I'm saying now might catch the attention. That little kid from North Korea, I mean, he was so confident. Look, I'm a comic book artist. My mind thinks of things. But we can't let anything go by. They appeal to us, reported.
Yeah.
And yet they take us so lightly. They knew about the Parkland killer. They knew about him. The FBI knew. Our Keystone cops knew in
And he was still
Broward
allowed
County.
to continue what he was doing. But, you know, let's get a little bit on the brighter side. That's one of the reasons why I think comics are so important now, is because it takes you away from, like, it still has those issues in those comics, like the different subjects, but it takes you away from the reality of life. You know, it gives you a reason to root for the good guy again, you know? And especially with your book, I'm so interested in reading. I kind of want to stop the interview just so I can read it.
Oh, go ahead.
But yeah, so I'm thinking that's one of the reasons why comics are so important now. And it's not because they make movies out of it. It's not because, you know, they make toys out of it. It's because it brings us back to where we can find a simple time and a common ground between everyone, you know. And if more people read comics, to be honest, if more people read comics, they wouldn't be out on the street doing stupid things. There wouldn't be a lot of bullying, because you read in comics where the bully gets what's for. You know what I mean? Gets what he deserves.
I have to say this real quick. I remember when I first met Free, and I asked him, I said, what got you into comics? And were you doing it when you first moved? Because he used to live in Hawaii. That's where he was born and raised. And when he moved to Las Vegas, I said, well, what got you into the comic scene? And he says, well, actually, what I used to do is I used to tag walls. He used to tag walls.
I used to do all graffiti.
And do his artwork on walls and stuff.
You were doing graffiti.
Yeah, I was one of those guys.
Why didn't you call it what it was? Graffiti.
Graffiti.
But the thing is that he, just like what he was talking about, he was on the street and he was doing stuff like that. And what he did was he found another outlet, which were drawing for comics, that allowed him to take his creative side and to apply it and to put it on paper instead of on brick.
Well, I didn't want to go to jail in Las Vegas.
Can I say something? One thing that I feel is very important. During the Second War, we were putting out comic books in Russian, and Japanese. Edward R. Murrow was a well-known star on radio and television at the time, a commentator. He was the head of a department in Washington that publish these comic books. My good friend Sam Berlikoff, who was a comic book artist, worked for Quality, Timely, wonderful artist, a good friend. We were in junior high school, just good friends. And he worked for Edward R. Murrow, and they did comic books for propaganda. So I figured now, okay, we partially have ISIS defeated right now. Why can't we put out comic books in Arabic? Show them, create a Captain Abdallah or something. I mean, I'm not, and show them the good side of life. There's no virgins waiting for them.
Yeah, the cultural.
Show them in pictures. Drop these magazines in all of territory. I wrote to President Bush. I pleaded. The rest of the only thing I knew, Marvel was sending comic books to the soldiers in the Mideast. But print books, show them that life could be better, that blowing themselves up, and while they, the big shots, sit back and take over their family or whatever, it could be done. It was done. It was done in Washington. Nobody wants to listen to me. Maybe this thing here will get started. It doesn't, the cost is minimal. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Maybe they'll pick it up and read it and show them life can be beautiful.
No, absolutely agree. And
It was done. Edward R. Murrow was a big figure.
Yeah.
And he worked for the government. And Sammy, my friend who's long passed on, worked for them. It was done. We had done it before. And I write letters, and that's all. I never hear from them again, But perhaps this may project to someone. Let's try that instead of bullets.
Yeah, let's try. That's all it takes. Is just you try. Yeah. And sometimes all it takes is that one person to say, you know what? Maybe I don't want to blow myself up in other people.
Yeah, create a hero, a Muslim hero. I'm friendly with Muslims. They come to my table. I greet them, salam, shalom, so they know who I am right away. And we hug. I was at an airport sitting in a wheelchair next to a Muslim woman. I'm not trying to put a halo around me. Roz went to get coffee. I said, ma'am, would you love to have a cup of coffee? She said, yes. I swear, as God is my witness. I'm trying. I'm one person. But I believe, put these comic books out. I would like to say an open message to President Trump. Please, try this. It's worth a try. It's a minimum amount of money. But comic books are very, very influential. And I hope someone out there that watches this will take notice.
Especially nowadays. I think with the media, with movies, with everything like that, if we put something like your idea into place, with exposure of media, it probably would take off real well.
All I say is comic books are playing a big part in our lives in America. We were once looked upon as lowlifes in the art industry. We're well respected today. Yes. Well taken. So I say again, I'm too old to fight. It's up to the younger people of this nation. And if anyone can reach someone in government to put out these comic books, create a character, I repeat, perhaps this may take on and change minds. Maybe, I don't know, but it's worth a try.
It's worth a try. There you go. Great message. Absolutely fantastic
That's a
message.
beautiful message. Beautiful message.
Thank you.
let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about. Let's go back to your art back in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah, what you wait so long?
You know what? My co-hosts here, they I like to listen a lot more than I like to talk, and they can tell you the same thing too. So, going back to your artwork. So, as Chandler had mentioned, both me and Free are comic book artists here in Las Vegas, and we have our influences. We go back to like the Art Adams, Jim Lee, Jack Kirby, all those guys. And then for you, who did you look up to back in the days?
Who did I look up to?
Yeah.
Very simple. Milton Caniff, who did Terry and the Pirates. You remember that?
I remember Terry and the Pirates.
And Alexander Raymond, who created Flash Gordon.
Oh,
I remember
yeah.
seeing this first Flash Gordon, and I was a hero. Milton Caniff was a hero. There's a story, I'll make it fast. I wrote to Milton Caniff. He answered me. He had pink stationery with a gray font named Milton Caniff and Terry and the Pirates. I make a long story short, he became honorary president of the Penman Cartoonists Amateur Clubbers. Wow. Anyway, years later, I'm in a profession. I'm invited to the Rubens Award at the Waldorf Astoria. I was divorced at the time, and I had my date go into the ladies' room, and out of the men's room walks Milton Caniff. My hero, Mr. Caniff. I don't know if you remember. He cuts me short. He says, "You'll have to excuse me. I got people waiting for me."
Oh,
it's right. It's like Babe Ruth walking away from a fan, from some little kid. I wasn't a little kid, but here was my hero. He answered my mail. I don't know if he answered or someone else, but here he walks out. And he walked away from me. I had the same tuxedo he had. I had clean socks. I took a shower.
Okay, but what happened to the postcard that they still found?
Oh, yes.
A relic.
I wrote him a fan letter, a postcard. He had a character called, when I was 15, he had a character called Raven, which he killed off a female. And he really tracked it. And I wrote him a postcard that keep on thrilling us, keep on giving us the entertainment. They took that postcard in the archives. He went to a college in Ohio. Someone found that fan postcard. It's in a book. It's reprinted in a book.
No way, really?
They just found it. They just found it
I was
in
only
his
about
archives.
15 when I wrote it, and they chose my fan letter. And I said, I wrote that at the age of, man, I love journalism. I wanted to be a writer too, but art won over. That was stronger within me. But
Wow, that's an amazing story. I mean, how many years it took for them to
it
find
was
that?
years and years.
Yeah.
So
That's
Milton
amazing.
Caniff, wherever you are.
He saved it. He saved it. They just found
I
it.
didn't save it. They saved it.
Wow.
But it's in the book.
So I'm just putting this out there. I mean, like I said, we can go all day, right? But I know that you have a signing soon.
Oh,
And you,
God.
like, okay, before we started, you were like, oh, an hour. I don't have time for that. It's been an hour and a half so far.
oh my God!
So I'm just letting you know, you still got that
Can I get
juice.
the last word in, please?
You could definitely get the last word.
Absolutely.
Free hush.
Well, you know, I was asked to be a stand-up comic. I says I only sit down, which I may have mentioned, but I'm available, though, for bar mitzvahs and weddings and any function. But let me say this. Let's stop the hate. Let's be one for the future and a better America. God bless you all, and thank you.
That's it for our show, folks. Thank you very much, Allen Bellman and his lovely wife, Roz. Canned applause. I want to say the book is Timely Confidential When the Golden Age of Comics Was Young by Allen Bellman. Pick that up at Pulp Venture. Is that the name of it?
Yeah, well,
Or
the
you can-
publisher is a small publisher.
The small
but
publisher.
It can be purchased on Amazon, but if you want it autographed, you can go to my Facebook and get the address of the Pulp Fiction Venture.
Pulp Ventures, yes.
So
Or you can
you
stop
come
by
down to
Celestial.
Celestial Comics, and we should have a copy there. And if we don't, we know exactly where to get it, and we know exactly how to get it autographed.
And would you do me a favor, gentlemen? Send me a DVD or this is something I could put away. Besides, if you could put the finished product on my Facebook.
I will definitely do that.
But I want, if possible, a DVD to put away as something of. I've never asked anyone for a DVD
Really?
because I
I
want
can
to put it
arrange
away
that.
in
Well, we'll make that happen.
something I want to
Absolutely.
leave behind because I've never had an interview. And as I could say to the comic book man, go ahead, I'm available.
Well, it was an honor.
You saw
having
it
you,
here
sir.
first.
Right? You saw him here
Saw it
first.
here first.
We're honored to have you both, Mr. Allen Bellman and Roz. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I can't wait to see you at the next convention in her outfit.
Thank you
She's a
guys
cosplayer.
because you made my day and I talk from my heart.
Beautiful. Thank you so
allowed me-
much.
You allowed me the opportunity to express myself.
No, again, we could have done this all day.
And that's it for our show. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is Geeked Out right here on DefTal Radio. I'm JQ, Chandler, Free, and our special guest, Allen Bellman, and his lovely wife, Roz.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Could I go home now?
When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield.